The squad car hadn't even cooled its engine before Mara Yates, self-appointed neighborhood tyrant and HOA president, came screeching from behind her hedge. "That man is trespassing," she bellowed, her voice booming across the cul-de-sac like a foghorn soaked in entitlement. The officer stepped toward me with the heavy patience of someone who had clearly encountered Mara before. I was in the middle of unloading a U-Haul stacked with vinyl records and cast iron cookware. "Sir, we got a report about someone occupying this house without permission," he said. I placed a box marked taxes and spite on the driveway, straightened up, and smiled. "I'm not squatting. I'm moving into my home." Technically, it had been Mara's home until recently. Her face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and finally an angry shade of red. "What do you mean?" she demanded. "You're 3 months behind on rent," I replied, opening another box like it was nothing. "My name's Gavin Croft. I used to make a career out of commercial real estate disputes, the kind of work where reading zoning codes was considered fun. I retired early at 41 and bought a place in Cypress Oak Village, a subdivision where lawns are manicured, neighbors feud quietly, and life feels like a polite purgatory. The house I picked had belonged to a man who fled overseas after accidentally founding a crypto cult. But the real twist was that I hadn't just bought that house. I purchased all 6 properties on the cul-de-sac. Most were rented by quiet, responsible tenants. The exception was Mara Yates, queen of the HOA, who'd been living under a sweetheart deal thanks to an outdated agreement with the former owner. When I took over the mortgages through a maze of shell companies, that deal quietly expired. The foreclosure finalized 6 weeks earlier. Mara, however, had no clue I was a new landlord, or that her little empire was crumbling. As soon as she spotted me moving in, she sprang into action like a bureaucratic spider spinning a fresh web. She dialed the HOA emergency line, which of course went directly to her phone, since she was the only board member. Within minutes, she slapped a violation notice on my moving truck, citing unregistered U-Haul fatigue, and criticizing my doormat for using Comic Sans. Then she went door to door, stuffing flyers in mailboxes that read, "Possible squatter alert on Alderberry Court. Middle-aged white male, smug expression, claims to be a landlord. Call Mara immediately." She even tried to have my car towed, arguing it was parked in an aggressive stance that violated subsection 12B of HOA parking policy. The tow truck driver took one glance, laughed, and drove away. Meanwhile, I was quietly reviewing tenant files, lease agreements, and years of Mara's HOA correspondence. Gems like, "Your mulch arrangement constitutes suburban terrorism, and garage door anarchists will not prevail." By day 3, I decided it was time. At precisely 8 a.m., I knocked on her door in press khakis and handed her a formal notice. Pay overdue rent or vacate. I also listed unauthorized alterations, including her so-called Zen barkscape decorated with fake squirrels she swore were meditation aids. Her scream was so loud it set off 3 security cameras and a nearby car alarm. "This is illegal. You can't evict me. I'm the HOA president. I've lived here 15 years. I calmly explained her old deal had vanished the moment I took ownership. She now owed me 3 months' rent at full market value, $8,400, plus fees. Her counterattack was to file a restraining order, but in her rage, she accidentally filed it against the HOA board itself, which was hilarious since the entire board was just her under a collection of aliases. M. Yates, Marwai, Marlene Gates, and bizarrely Yatsilla. By the time court rolled around, her defense was a circus. She presented a PowerPoint titled Sovereign Subdivision Law that cited nothing legal, waved around a laminated Monopoly card labeled Boardwalk, and even included an affidavit of support signed, paw print and all, by her cat, Chairman Meow. The judge looked like he regretted every choice that had let him preside over the circus. Mara, brimming with confidence as though she'd binge-watched legal dramas for weeks, stood tall and declared, "I invoke the ancient right of first claim, as established in the case of Finders versus Keepers, 1970. She wasn't finished. From her bag, she produced a thick binder labeled Constitutional Powers of HOA Presidents and began reading aloud. What she called Article 7 of her so-called charter turned out to be a collection of casserole recipes copied from an old cookbook. The judge had to turn away for a moment, shoulders trembling as he fought to keep a straight face. "Miss Yates," he said carefully, as though explaining to a stubborn child, "you cannot cite a cooking show as precedent. And no, living here for 15 years does not make you immune from eviction. Furthermore, your argument that driveways qualify as boat docks under maritime law is not only incorrect, it is astonishing in its creativity." The gallery erupted with muffled laughter. Neighbors packed into the courtroom, delighted to see her finally brought down, whispered to each other. One man muttered loud enough for all to hear, "She fined me once for thinking about repainting my house." The judge banged his gavel 3 times to restore order. The ruling was swift. Mara lost on every front. My ownership of the property was upheld. The eviction order was greenlit, and she was fined $500 for filing fraudulent HOA citations. When she tried to place the court reporter under citizen's arrest for typing too aggressively, she was slapped with another $300 contempt fine. But my work wasn't finished. I attended the next HOA meeting, though meeting was a generous word. It was just Mara, sitting on a folding chair she dubbed the HOA throne, speaking into a clip-on microphone connected to nothing. I brought a notarized motion to dissolve the HOA entirely, something I'd already arranged with the other 5 homeowners over beers and shared hatred of mailbox height regulations. The vote was 5-1. Mara, of course, was the sole dissenter. "You can't do this," she cried, jumping up so quickly her throne collapsed behind her. "Without standardized grass height, we'll descend into chaos. Doors will be painted colors other than beige. The neighborhood will fall apart." I handed her the official dissolution paperwork, drafted by a lawyer who specialized in HOA law, and who, coincidentally, Mara had unsuccessfully sued multiple times in the past. This time, the battle was truly over. She was crushed, defeated in every way that mattered. Her expression was that of someone who just learned Santa, the Easter Bunny, and her authority were all lies. I gave her 2 weeks to move out, which was generous. Her attempts at retaliation during those days were more pitiful than threatening. She taped leaves to my windows with handwritten notes like, "Enjoy your mildew, dictator. Property values will collapse without me." On the day she moved, she staged a protest parade consisting of 3 Roombas with tiny HOA flags taped to them. They circled her driveway while she shouted into a megaphone, reciting a Bill of Rights she had clearly drafted that morning. For her finale, I simply changed the Wi-Fi password. Her little robot army stalled, then rolled helplessly into the gutter. From there, the downfall was swift. Without her fabricated HOA shield, the city fined her $2,000 for illegally collecting dues. 3 neighbors filed small claim suits over bogus fines she had issued, totaling $6,000. Her desperate attempt to claim squatters' rights was laughed out of court, and she was ordered to pay $4,500 in my legal fees. But the real hammer fell when investigators uncovered her embezzlement scheme. Every shady invoice, every receipt, every fake contractor payment tied to her cousin's shell company. It was all documented. The prosecutor, who happened to live in a neighborhood plagued by another HOA, seemed personally invested in seeing her punished. She was barred for life from running or participating in any HOA in the county. When the criminal trial ended, the verdict was guilty on all counts of embezzlement. The sentence, 18 months in prison and repayment of the $18,000 she had stolen, plus penalties. As the bailiff clicked the handcuffs around her wrists, Mara's mouth opened and closed silently like a fish pulled out of water. For the first time in her reign of neighborhood tyranny, she had nothing left to say.